Igabo, welcome. Welcome back to Life with Mopeomo. Yes, this is Mopeomo. And yes, this is the second episode with Life with Mopeomo. This channel is really embracing what this month is all about, which is SAAM, which is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And we're going to go deep because awareness isn't just about naming what happened to us. It's about understanding what it did to us. All of us. Body, mind, and spirit. Most definitely. So today we're going to be talking about chronic abuse and its impact on mental health. And I want to start somewhere that might surprise you. Your gut. Yes. Chronic abuse, trauma can all affect your gut. You probably heard the phrase, I had a gut feeling. Or maybe abuse left you with constant stomach issues, nausea, or digestive problems that doctors couldn't fully explain. That is not a coincidence. That's your body keeping score. And I recommend to get the book, The Body Keeps Score. I have that book. Have I read it? No. But I need to, because sometimes we really have to face our shadows. So if you've had that book in your corner that's getting dusty, you better pick that up because it's gonna do some wonders, and I'm talking to myself as well. But I do want to share the science behind the gut-brain axis because this goes hand in hand with chronic abuse and your mental health. You know, your gut and your brain are in constant conversation through what is called the gut-brain axis. You know, this is a two-way communication highway connecting your central nervous system to your autonomic nervous system, which is essentially a second brain living in your digestive tract. I know, that's crazy, but this is how our body operates. They talk through nerves, hormones, and even the trillions of bacteria in your gut microbiome. So, now, when you experience chronic abuse, your body is repeatedly flooded with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Over time, that chronic stress disrupts the gut microbiome, causes inflammation, and dysregulates the very signals traveling between your gut and your brain. And when that communication breaks down, it doesn't just show up as stomach problems. It shows up as anxiety, depression, emotional dysregulation, hypervigilance. This is all that I have. You know, it can even be a contributing factor in conditions like complex PTSD and bipolar, which I have, you know. So if you've ever wondered why chronic abuse hits so differently than a single traumatic event, this is part of that answer, okay? It's trust me and believe. It's not a weakness. It's not being too sensitive. Your nervous system was conditioned, your gut health was compromised, and your brain chemistry was literally altered by prolonged exposure to trauma. And that is exactly what we're unpacking today. Okay. Yes. Your gut-brain health is contributed to chronic abuse. And we can't forget that the connection that we have with our gut automatically interferes with our mindset, the way that we function. So please just don't forget that, you know. And I feel like when it comes to parents, you know, that have children that have experienced chronic abuse, you know, even relaying this information to your child is really, really important, you know. So I just want to get a little personal. We're going to talk about SAM. We're going to talk about what this month is about, you know, Sexual Assault Awareness Month, you know, because when it comes to specifically CSA, which is childhood sexual abuse, you know, this is a conversation that doesn't really get talked about, but a lot of children experience, you know, so this is a very important conversation, you know, and especially when this child is experiencing this chronically. You know, so like for me personally, I am a thriver of CSA of 5 years, from 7 to 12 years old. And I can truly say that I got IBS because of CSA. I think I was like, in either like fifth grade or like in middle school, and I was having like severe gut problems. It was just really, really hard for me to eat. This is the time where like I was experiencing a lot of anxiety. I was like very much so like in my head. It was really hard for me to like navigate. And also too, this is something that a lot of people don't recognize too. When a child experiences CSA, they could possibly become mute. I was mute for almost a year, and being mute is not talking, and when you don't talk, you don't feel the need to, show up for yourself, so this was also a time where like it was really, really hard for me to like eat because I was so uncomfortable in my body. So can you imagine, like I was experiencing what I was experiencing, I was mute, so I wasn't able to talk. I wasn't able to like show up for myself verbally, and I'm experiencing IBS and I'm not eating. Like that's doing a number on my nervous system and on my brain. Like that's just not healthy altogether, and you would think, oh, I'm seeing this child going through this. Like, for adults to, like, recognize that. No adults recognize that within me, So this was something that I was facing for a long period of time, until I got into high school. When I was in high school, specifically in 11th grade, this is when I became a Buddhist. I became a Buddhist. I was just doing a lot of research, studying about how to feel more safer in my body, how to navigate in my body, So I was doing a lot, like a lot of research, and come to find out that, when you are experiencing chronic abuse, this can lead to IBS. This can lead to so many different things going on in your gut that can contribute to having anxiety, hypervigilance, emotional dysregulation, depression, like from the age of 8 until now, I'm 30, about to be 31 in 2 months. Like, I have major depressive disorder. I have been diagnosed with complex PTSD and bipolar 2. And within my complex PTSD, I have MDD, major depressive disorder. So I have times where it's like really, really hard for me to eat. It's really, really hard for me to just like fully show up for myself. But I can truly say these past 2 years, I've been working on that. One thing that I've been doing is making sure that I at least eat twice a day, at least. Because eating is, we're human. We need to eat to fuel ourselves, to have energy, I know that for myself, the type of abuse that I've experienced, it actually converted like my circadian rhythm. I have more energy at night than in the morning. So like when I wake up, like I feel groggy. I feel kind of like disoriented. This is when I'm experiencing a little bit more brain fog and stuff like that. And then, towards the evening, heading into the night, I have more energy. I feel up. I'm like ready to go. Where? Nowhere, because I have to go to bed. But honestly though, like the type of abuse that I've experienced, it really did that to me, So like now as an adult, like it's kind of hard for me to like really instill a routine for myself because of how my body just naturally functions. Like my nervous system is naturally dysregulated. But yeah. I know this is a lot, but at the same time, this is something that happened to me, and this is something that probably happened to you. Experiencing chronic abuse, experiencing CSA, and not having someone to be there for you, not having a parent to be there for you, not even having friends to, not even to relate to, but just be there for you. So it's really a challenge to feel safe in your body when your body is experiencing a lot of changes. a lot of changes. You know, like when you are experiencing a lot of mental health issues as a child, you kind of go inward. You know, you kind of go inward and you're trying to understand who you are. You're trying to like fix something, you know, and there's nothing really to fix because there's essentially nothing wrong with you. Something happened to you, and what you need is either guidance, safety, nourishment, nurture. That's way more important than trying to fix yourself because there's nothing to fix. You feel me? So I just wanted to just share that because I know that when you do experience CSA, especially as a child, you feel really conflicted. You feel disgusted in your body. You don't want to deal with yourself. You want to hide from the world. You want to isolate. You want to avoid certain situations, just certain things so that you can just live and be in your own comfort zone, you know? And as you get older, that just has to change. That's something that I'm realizing for myself. Like, I can't sit in my comfort because when I'm sitting in my comfort, I'm essentially feeding my inner child things that they don't need. Because I'm an adult now. And we need to build a relationship where it's just like, when it's time for us to connect, it's time for us to connect. But when it's not time for us to connect, I have to become an adult and be as present as possible to live the life that I deserve to live right now. You know? And this is how chronic abuse can affect your mental health. You know? Like you feel disconnected from yourself. You feel like you can't do anything for yourself. You know, like, and I feel like this plays like a huge role in having like executive dysfunction. You know, this is something that I deal with. Of like, I want to move my body. I want to get up. I want to do, you know, like I want to participate in specific routines and instill self-discipline. Like, my mind is telling me, my soul, my heart is telling me, go do this, go do that. You know what you're passionate about. You know what you want to do. My body does not move. And that's your nervous system being completely wired. It's like so much is going on. How can I even get the fuck up? You know? But that's the thing. You just kind of just have to challenge yourself. You have to challenge yourself. You have to put yourself in a situation where, yes, it's going to be extremely uncomfortable for your inner child to experience. But guess what? It's going to benefit your adult self. It is. You know? Like I said, I have complex PTSD, bipolar 2, and I have slight OCD symptoms. You know? And one thing that I'm doing, knowing that I have experienced chronic abuse, and within my chronic abuse, yes, I am a survivor of CSA, a thriver of CSA, but I'm also a thriver of narcissistic parental abuse and xenophobic bullying. You know, that's a lot for a child to experience. You know, so that's why, like, I've internalized all the things that have been told to me, all the things that have been done to my body. I've internalized all these things, you know? So now as an adult, showing up for myself may feel impossible, but the things that really help me is like aromatherapy, listening to music, being outside. Like, I love nature. Nature, like, naturally regulates my nervous system because when you have PTSD, complex PTSD, it is hard to breathe. It is hard to breathe. And I kind of want to go back to the gut-brain axis, right? Because I feel like, especially living in the United States of America, you know, we breathe from our chest because we're in survival mode for the most part, you know, like, but we are human beings. We are not supposed to be breathing from our chest. We are supposed to be breathing from our guts. We are, because we are human beings. You know, when we take a deep breath, we don't take a deep breath from our chest. We take a deep breath from our stomach, from our guts. You know? So that also contributes to your gut-brain axis. When you breathe in from your gut, from your stomach, That's clearing your mind. It is. So that's a tip. That's a tip. If you are someone that has experienced chronic abuse and it has completely affected your mental health and you're trying to figure out, how the fuck can I become more present? Like, what is going... Breathe. You just have to breathe. Because also too, like, having like hypervigilance and basically hypervigilance, this is something that I talked about with my sibling, because me and my sibling, we shared the same like diagnosis, and I like to tell her that, like, having hypervigilance it feels like you're a bird, specifically a hummingbird, of like, you're in your body, but you feel so alert, like you you're hearing the feather drop on the floor. You're seeing the wind blow. You're hearing all these noises. You literally, your senses are so heightened that you are aware of everything going around you. How does that not feel like a bird? Like, hypervigilance does a number. So what brings you back to yourself? Breathing. It's important. It is, and the way that sexual assault, sexual abuse can have such a huge impact on how we view ourselves, it's easy to hide. It's easy to belittle yourself. It's easy. But we should not be doing this to ourselves. We shouldn't. This is why building community is important. And sometimes breathing by yourself can be hard because you're in your head. You don't know how to get out of your head. But when you're around other people, it's easier for you all to just stop, look around, activate all of your senses, and breathe. Because you're literally physically not alone, So yeah. Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot to be human, facing things that happened to you as a child, even as an adult, trying to process what just happened and rebuilding safety back into your body. That shit is hard. It is not easy at all whatsoever to be emotionally dysregulated. What? To have your nervous system go against you? What? To have all these passions that you want to do, to have all these different things that you want to do, but your mind is your enemy telling you not to do it. Like, this is something that we have to challenge ourselves. Like, we have to. Is it easy? No, it is not easy. But doing that work, doing that shadow work is so important because no one's going to do it for us. We have to do it for ourselves. So, yes. 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 I really wanted to just share that and just, just know that you're not alone. Know that you're not alone. Know that seeking community is important. And also, too, I do want to share this. Sometimes I feel like talk therapy, yes, it's important. It's necessary. But maybe tap it into, like, group therapy so that it's not like a one-on-one thing. You're in a group. Like, you're able to relate to maybe not just one, but maybe 2 or 3 other people. Sometimes that can make you feel a little bit more safer in your body, knowing that you're literally not alone and that other people can relate to you, like, directly in person. You feel me? I currently have a therapist, and I see my therapist every 2 weeks. I just saw them this past Tuesday. But this past Thursday, I had a doctor's appointment, and they recommended group therapy. And I'm like, you know what? That seems like something that I need because I need community, and I also need therapy, And yeah, like, when it comes to CSA, it's like, yes, this happens to a lot of people, but it's not talked about. But when you go to a group therapy, you know, when it comes to complex PTSD, when it comes to your mental health, I'm pretty sure you're going to meet other people that have experienced something similar, you know? So I highly recommend that, most definitely, you know? The goal is to start feeling safe in your body, you know? To not fear yourself, you know? To be resilient, but within your own pace. You know, this is not about rushing yourself at all whatsoever. I want you to feel safe in your body when it comes to your own terms. That's way more important than rushing. Because when it comes to healing, it's not linear. It's not. It's not. It's complex. It's complicated. And it's supposed to be that way. Because we are human. We are not God. God is watching us. And we are reflections of God. But we have to remember that we are imperfectly perfect. That is being a human being. It is. You know? So, yes, we have come to a closure of this episode. But yes, I really hope that, you know, you enjoyed this episode. You know, that you learned some things about yourself or somebody else. And yeah, just writing things down, seeing what resonates with you, what doesn't, you know. But yes. I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. And until next time, Ashe Oshe.